In this video I'm going to show you feather stitch, and feather stitch is this stitch here. It doesn't really look feathery to me, it looks more like foliage, but anyway it's called feather stitch. So it's a really nice one for doing lots of leaves and stalks like you can see in this example here. So when you're working feather stitch, I would always draw in a straight line to start with, like I've done here. I've done this in really dark pencil, but just so that it was clear on the video, but I'd suggest that you do it in a lighter pencil. And that just gives you a guide to work to. So put your embroidery thread on your needle and put a knot on the end. And you always start, even though you're working along this line, instead of starting at the bottom, which you would if you were doing chain stitch, you do the opposite, you start at the top. And feather stitch is very similar to chain stitch. If you're familiar with that, you'll soon pick it up. So you take your needle through the fabric at the end point of your line and get used to moving your thread out of the way. So I'm going to bring it to my left hand side, the thread, so it's out of the way, and then take my needle back just at the side, so you can see at the side of where the first stitch came out of the fabric. And then I'm going to bring my needle back through the pencil mark. I'm not going to make it too long because I don't want the stitch to be too long. And with this thread out of the way, I'm going to gently pull that through, and that's the first bit of your feather stitch. Now for the next stitch, I want to go the opposite way. So I'm going to bring my thread out of the way to the right and bring my needle through at the side and then back through, whoops, at the middle line, and then draw my needle through. And then you've got the branch going to the left and you've got the branch going to the right. So I'm going to alternate as I work my way down. So remembering it's all about how you keep this thread out of the way, because that's what loops around your needle. So if I'm working, if I want a branch on my left hand side, I'm going to bring my embroidery thread to the right, out of the way. It's one of those stitches that doesn't really matter if you're left or right-handed, because you're going to work both sides. So one side you'll find easier than working the other side. That's what I've found anyway. And then when you get to the end, to finish it off, you just take your needle back through the fabric and knot it off at the back with a couple of over stitches. And that's your feather stitch. Now if you've got a side bit that you want to incorporate, so like that bit there, you just draw your line at the side and just work it in the same way, starting at the end and working towards the main stem. And that's your feather stitch.